Harlem. Since learning about the Harlem Renaissance in school, I've always wanted to know what it would be like to be in Harlem. Both then and now, Harlem has offered such rich culture for the Black community, and it's meant so much to me, but I've never gotten the chance to go. Well, that is, until today.
Alright, so here is the story on this story. My name is Maya, and I'm 17. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I was born and raised there. I looked it up. My house is 2,455 miles away from where I am staying right now, which is New York City! Yay! And though I have been living in the city for a few weeks now, I have never gotten the chance to go to Harlem, so I decided to go. Okay, so here is my personal origin story as to why, as a person from LA, I've wanted to go to Harlem for a couple of years now, and that is because freshman year, we did an assignment in English class, and it was basically to read the poem Harlem by Langston Hughes, and obviously Langston Hughes is such a talented and iconic Black poet that when I first read it, I had expected to completely understand it, like, oh, this should make sense to me, you know. But it did not. I was actually kind of confused, but more than that, I was intrigued to learn more about what this poem meant, because it represented to me the American dream, and especially the Black American dream, a story of perseverance and struggle and beauty in the face of hardship, and oh my gosh, it just got me so excited to learn about Harlem, and I was like, I am gonna go there one day, and now I'm here. So I decided to scope out Harlem with my brother. He is living in DC right now, but he too, born and raised in LA, and he came to visit me in New York, and we were going to go to Harlem together, and we were gonna do it, and we did. Right, so I am well aware of the Los Angeles stereotypes because I have spoken to New Yorkers here, and apparently Los Angeles is known for having kind of their head in the clouds and, you know, not being very down to earth. My goal in coming to Harlem was to look completely like a local, but that was kind of hard to do because I was filming everything, and it's, you know, the balance of trying to be a journalist but also trying to be very undercover and with everyone. Now, I know that the Black experience in Los Angeles varies a lot from person to person, but on a personal level, Harlem also attracted me because I have been in a typically predominantly white environment for a lot of my life because of the schools that I go to and the neighborhood that I live in, and so that has been my personal experience in the lens that I see the world through. And so I have always seen Harlem as this sort of beacon for Black culture, and it has been something that I really wanted to visit, and I made it my personal goal to get here. And don't get me wrong, we have areas in Los Angeles like Leimert Park, which I love so much, but to go to Harlem was on a completely different level, and I was just ready to go. So many iconic Black people who paved the way in their respective fields have lived in Harlem, like Zora Neale Hurston and Louis Armstrong and Lena Horne and Billie Holiday, and I was just so thrilled to be in the same place as them. I don't know, it made me really happy to be there. So besides getting there and geeking out a little bit about how excited I was to be in the same place as so many icons, I decided to go to the Apollo Theater, which was just, it's something you have to do. So if you're not very familiar with the Apollo Theater, it is an iconic landmark in Harlem because so many Black artists have performed there, and it was kind of a place that fostered the emergence of music like gospel, jazz, blues, and it's an absolutely iconic place. Now, although we didn't get to stay for very long on day one, I went to Langston Hughes' apartment and I had Jacob do a little shot of me going up the stairs. It was just absolutely incredible. I would have to say this was my favorite part because to me it was a bit of a full circle moment. He is sort of the reason why I became interested in Harlem in the first place, him and all the other trailblazers of the Harlem Renaissance, and to be at his apartment, it was unreal. Well, that was pretty much the ending of day one, and I went to bed, and I woke up a couple days later, and I realized, alrighty, I think that day one of visiting Harlem can be considered a success, but now I am going to go back for a day two because I'm a journalist now, and I'm really excited to go back. I really liked it the first time, so let's see what we figure out today. Unfortunately, on day 2, a lot in Harlem was closed, like its local museums and tours, but I was still determined to learn something new. And this time on my day 2 adventure, I was on my own this time. Los Angeles is notoriously bad for public transportation, and basically everyone just drives everywhere, so the subway is still a fairly new thing for me. And newsflash, I got lost. I got lost a couple times. I boarded the wrong train, but I was determined in my journalism mind to get back to Harlem, and this time to really observe it rather than sightsee and kind of just see where that inspiration took me. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my main goal of this second trip to Harlem was less sightseeing and more being in tune with how I feel and kind of just connecting to Harlem itself. Which I know sounds corny, but we don't have places like Harlem in LA as much, and so I thought that it was the perfect opportunity to actually just think of it, and so of course I had to go back to Langston Hughes's apartment. Something that I noticed on my second trip that I was more observant of was the architecture of Harlem and how the buildings themselves were so beautiful, detailed, and kind of told their own story. To sum it up the best I can, my second goal on my second day in Harlem was to find my own answer to Langston Hughes's question in his poem Harlem, which is, what happens to a dream deferred? Now, again, in class, when I first read this part, I was intrigued. I don't know exactly what happens to a dream deferred in Harlem, and I was like, this is my goal, this is what I have to do. So after sitting and walking and sitting and walking, I finally came up with my own interpretation to what I believed the answer to his poem was, and that is that the Black dream can come in so many different forms. It is the Apollo, it is his apartment and all the other places I got to see. It's the gardens that are now growing in Harlem, and it's in the lady who sold me this bag. The Black dream has no one definite answer, and just to think about that was so inspiring. Just to think about all the Black people who have paved the way for our culture today is just, it's inspiring to me. And I know I'm again geeking out a bit, but just to think about that, it blows my mind away. And I also think that being in Harlem, a place with so many Black people surrounding me, was a change of scenery for me, and it allowed me to kind of take off this extra lens that I had been carrying with me in Los Angeles, and that's like this layer of double consciousness that's always going through my mind about what people might think of me or who I am as a Black person, but I feel in Harlem that I just got to be. And although I do not think I passed the test of trying to fit in and look like a local, because I did get asked a few times where I was from, I think that I took away something else that was really valuable, and that is the lesson and the experience that really reassured me that there isn't just one way to be Black. I mean, I am from the other side of the country, and I felt a connectedness to Harlem even though I'd never been here, but the people and the landmarks here did really make me feel welcome, and I am so grateful for this experience. I would definitely recommend. Alright, I had to get my Apollo mug in the shot, but I wanted to say that this trip to Harlem had been so enriching for me because it taught me a lot more about Harlem and more specifically about myself and why I was drawn to it. And I can see why. It was an absolutely wonderful place, and I'm so happy I went.